Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Movie Night here on the Anorex Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Samee Ramirez, and today we're doing a double feature, guys. This is like the Samee takeover. These are my two favorite genres of thing ever. We're doing a musical and a Pixar movie. Couldn't be more excited. We're talking In the Heights and Luca today. And I am joined by my host, as always, Dom Martino. Dom, how are you doing today?
Hey, Sammy, pretty good. Excited to talk about a Lin-Manuel Miranda musical, that's for sure, and also excited to talk about a Pixar film. There's always something good about them to get into, so yeah, in a pretty good mood, not gonna lie to you.
Nice, that's nice. So I think I'm gonna start with In the Heights. That's the one I've saw furthest to go. So starting least recently.
Got to get it out of your
system. Got to get the first one out. It's been in my system for the longest amount of time. It takes priority right now.
All right.
We're just gonna dive in today because we are doing two movies. So we're just gonna I think we're gonna structure it a little bit differently and just do full conversations for about the next 30 minutes on In the Heights.
Please.
But I want to start. Okay. So I love this movie. That's how I'll start out. I loved it. I cried multiple times. I'm a huge musical fan. I love Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm a huge fan of the original musical. This had every inch of this movie read musical to me. It understood that it was a musical. It took advantage of the fact that it was a musical. And it was just such joy and hope, like reaping off of the screen that it made me emotional at times. I loved it. And plus the Hispanic representation was incredible. Like the way the actors were truly just allowed to be themselves. I think they weren't being told like, this is the way me, a white man, thinks a Hispanic person would act, so I need you to act that way. It was like they were just able to breathe and exist, I thought, which was absolutely incredible. All that being said, I do have some gripes with it. My main one is just I feel like they were holding out on us on some of the singing. I'll be the one to say it. There was the big moment this is full spoiler review. But the moment at the end of When You're Home between Nina and Benny in the Broadway musical, it ends with this huge belted note between the two of them. And in the music and in the movie, it's just spoken. It's like when you're home is the lyric and home is supposed to be belted, but it's just they sing when you're and then whisper home to each other. And I mean, it's a choice. It's definitely a movie choice versus a musical choice. I get it, but I don't know. I felt they were holding out on us a little bit. I feel like they could have gone just full belting, dancing, everything. And I feel like they held out a little bit. That's really my big gripe though. Everything else, even, the plot structure changes, which Dom, I don't know if you know about, but like there were a decent amount of plot structure that was changed.
I mean, I knew there were structure changes. Right. I just couldn't pinpoint them because I've never seen the Broadway version. But anyway,
yeah. Well, I mean, so the big one, which did bother me actually, was Abuela's whole storyline, where so in the musical.
Oh, I heard something about this.
Yeah, so in the musical, her number Presencia y Fe, which was phenomenal in this movie, by the way. Olga Mertis, who originated the role of Abuela on Broadway, also plays the role in the movie.
Oh, cool.
And oh my God, I thought she killed it in this role. Obviously, she's been with Abuela for like over a decade now. But in the musical, that is done, I believe, immediately after 96,000. So you find out that someone has won the lottery. And then in the musical, it's Abuela that wins the lottery. And that's a whole thing of how Usnavi is thinking about able to go back to the Dominican Republic. But in the movie, you just genuinely never find out who wins the lottery. And that's not a reason why Usnavi is able to leave, which it worked. It was fine. But again, in consequence, we get 96,000. A million years later, we get Presencia y Fe. And then immediately after that, she dies. Which was quite shocking to me because I feel like the role of Abuela was just very diminished in the movie, which again I think is only something that you would recognize if you're a fan of the musical, because I think in the movie it worked, though. I think everything totally worked. Yeah, I love this. I'm so excited. John M. Chu is going to direct the Wicked movie, allegedly, that's supposed to come out very soon.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I think this is just a great step forward for movie musicals. All that being said, Dom, what you got?
Okay. Yeah, so myself included, I'm a massive Lin-Manuel Miranda fan. I like everything he does. obviously Hamilton included. I've known who he was since before I saw Hamilton, though. Like, you know, obviously Moana, actually, I saw before Hamilton, and you know, so there's a lot of different things that I've known him from for a while. Been a huge fan of this guy. Always comes off like a really genuinely nice, sweet dude in talk shows and interviews
I
and
think
stuff
he
too.
is.
And I really do have like a good feeling about him. I think he's incredibly inspiring and inspirational in that way as well. Just when you really look at his story, it's really incredibly inspiring and inspirational. And I think it makes me want to be a better creator every time I see something that he does. You know, it really motivates me, because he's just such a average Joe type of guy, you know what I mean, as far as like
Right.
his personality and the way he comes off, and I like how he carries himself in that way. And
He's
then
the true fan, you can tell. Like he's
for
he's
sure.
a fan first. Like the reason why he's so
Well,
good at writing songs is because he's such a fan of music and musical
yeah.
theater, you know.
Well, that's kind of where the other point I wanted to make as well. Like yeah, like you said, he's a fan of musical theater, but he's kind of like the unlikely underdog in a way when it comes to Broadway. I feel like, because,
Sure.
because in a way he's like. He kind of does everything against the grain when it comes to Broadway. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he wants to make it his own and different, and I really respect that about him too. And that's something else I find to be inspirational, because he's just kind of like the this is gonna sound horrible, but
Right.
he's like the bastard child of Broadway, but he kind of came up and
Honestly
is like,
though, right, yeah.
but
But
he's
I think that's why he's so good and why he's so successful, though. You know what
right.
I mean? Like that's what I think is so fascinating about Lin-Manuel Miranda, that
Well,
all of that is true, and
yeah.
yet he is one of the most successful Broadway composers of all time. Like his name is synonymous, you know, with modern musical theater at this point.
I mean,
And you know, it's because
yeah.
it's interesting, because that then shows, you know, that that's what audiences want. That odd that there's a craving there for, like, no, we just want to hear your true story. If you're tell your true story, that will most likely also be someone else's true story. And it's that idea that I think
Well,
makes him so successful.
right. I mean, he's just such an access point these days too, for like a lot of young like people like Gen Z to get into like Broadway as well, because like Hamilton just
Definitely.
kind of blew up beyond Broadway and just started appealing to the
Mm-hmm.
masses. I mean, the soundtrack is incredible, obviously.
In the
So
Heights
many
though,
messages and
yeah.
themes.
Mm-hmm. In the Heights though too, In the Heights is it's slowly becoming like one of the most popular shows for musical theater high school programs to be doing. And it's because like it gets people are like, wait, you mean we're rapping in this? We're telling like an actual real story about real people, not about, you know, like stuffy old dead guys. You know, and that makes a lot of people really interested and want, you
Right.
know, to be into theater. And then, you know, once they're in, they're like, wait, here's another one, Hamilton, what's that? And it was based on this,
Right.
and it's influenced by this and that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
working on getting your camera back here too.
Okay,
But
yeah, I was gonna be like, my camera's gone, by the way. I
but
assumed it
yeah,
was all
so I'm
right. Cool.
multitasking, but I'll keep talking. So yeah, anyway, so you know, that all that said, I
There you go.
also John M.
Back.
Chu.
Maybe.
I love Crazy Rich Asians. You know, I think that film is just phenomenal as hell. It was a really good, like, I'm pretty sure directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken, Crazy Rich Asians. I mean, it's definitely the one that's
I
made
believe you're
him
right.
a
Yeah.
massive filmmaker. And I think that's there's something to be
Yes.
said about that movie doing as well as it did, considering the type of genre that film is, and you know, and being as successful as it is. And he's just really a talented dude. Okay, so that said, In the Heights.
Yeah.
So I have no attachment to the Broadway show. You know, like
Mhm.
I know the song In the Heights. That's all I knew prior going into this.
Lights up from Washington Heights. That's it. That's all
Incredible
we'll do.
song.
We're
I
done.
love the song, and it's the reason I've never like gone back to listen to the soundtrack is because I knew the movie was coming and I just wanted to see it this way, rather than
All right.
having an attachment to it. Because it's like, gosh, I love Lin-Manuel, but I also love John M. Chu. So like, let me see their collaboration on
Right.
something
Right.
rather than like having an attachment to what Lin-Manuel did first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going into this, so. I might have an interesting perspective, I guess, is the point, me going into this as blind as I did. So here's the thing. I really, really freaking love this movie, but I understand why a lot of people are not going to. And I'm going to say why. Because the thing is, and right now,
They
by the
hate
way,
fun. Okay, moving on. Sorry.
You're right though, but that's kind of the point I was gonna make,
Yeah,
is because and you're gonna disagree with this point too, Sammy, but I'm gonna tell you my honest opinion of this.
go for it.
If this did well critically, like Greatest Showman should have too, in my opinion, because I love this the same way I love Greatest Showman. I understand that
You're right. I do disagree with that.
I knew you would, but that's okay. But that's my opinion of it. I feel like in between the music, first of all, both movies have soundtracks that make me feel really good about myself when I
Oh, for
listen to
sure.
them.
I agree on that. I love the soundtrack.
And then both films have like
Greatest Showman.
just stories that make me feel good about myself as well. So, I mean, they're both very positively messaged stories. There's really not much. There's sadness in the Abuela part. Now, the only difference between this and Greatest Showman is John M. Chu, though. See, to me, this it kind of puts it on this slightly higher level, because John M. Chu shoots the crap out of this movie. I mean, it's incredibly shot. It looks great.
Absolutely.
It's a great looking film for sure. If I had to pick one between the two, I'm gonna go Crazy Rich Asians. I think it's a better film. Like, that's more cinema, and I feel like if people are gonna come in here looking for that again, they're not gonna get that. And so I understand why some people would be disappointed if you're coming in like that to it like that. But that said, I have fun with this movie, and I feel like I really am like Lin-Manuel Miranda bias at this point, because it seems like anything he does, I just end up enjoying. It's like it doesn't matter what it is. First of all, there are really, really good performances in here. I mean, Anthony Ramos is incredible. Jimmy Smits, I actually think, is another one of the highlights that like nobody is talking about, because I have never seen him take on a performance with so much depth, and he just did a really phenomenal job. And I mean, I liked the whole cast, to be honest. I found the whole cast to be incredibly likable. Do I have gripes with it? Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I do. I find this story to be kind of, it lacks substance. It's not Hamilton in that way, you know what I mean? Because it does lack substance from Hamilton, but I really still have fun with it, and I like the fact that it made me feel really good when I watched it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter to me, because I still loved it almost as much as Hamilton, just in a different way. You know what I mean? And it's like I've watched this movie like 3 times. I love it that much. So like, I'm not trying to be negative on this movie. I really, really love this movie, and I see myself revisiting it a lot because it makes me feel really good. And I mean, like, to get into the spoiler territory, I mean, when Abuela dies, I mean, I was perfectly did I say Abuela dies? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Abuela.
Abuela. Sorry, I meant
Abuela Claudia.
I'm not
properly
Mexican, folks. I'm trying to learn, but when she died, I mean, that was good to me. Like, I thought it gave like narrative stake to the story, and I liked the musical number. I thought it was beautiful, by the way. The musical, she did really well, like you said, Sammy, and the musical number she did going in before that was really, really strong and powerful to me and beautiful. I think one of my favorite scenes in here too is the club scene before the blackout.
That was great.
I thought I thought John M. Chu, that was like top-notch directing from him.
That's probably my favorite. I'm a big my favorite thing in musical theater is an act 1 finale where it's like a bunch of chaos is going on, and then they all collectively sing together in harmony, and it's beautiful. And then blackout, act 1 is over. And in the musical, the blackout, the club scene leading into the blackout, is the act 1 finale. So like, it was one of my favorite parts of the musical, and I agree, it was everything I dreamed it would have been on screen. So I had high hopes for that scene, and I loved it.
Yeah. Another one of my big gripes, and this is probably my biggest one with the entire film, to be honest with you, and I'm sorry if you're a Broadway fan and you have attachment to this. I'm just talking about me watching it as a movie, like not the Broadway version. This could be better in the Broadway version. I just don't know. The first nail salon scene, No Me Digo, right? That's the
No Me Diga.
No Me Diga. That song and number could
I say this like completely. I know Spanish.
That could have been cut completely from the movie, if you ask me, because that was it wasted time. It didn't do anything for the characters. It really didn't. Like, to me, it didn't do a damn thing for them, and it just, I think it kind of ruined the pacing right there in that moment. I have the last 2 watches. In fact, I rarely ever do this, even if I don't like scenes in movies. But I really hate that scene so much that I fast forward through it.
Wow,
I really don't like that scene. It's become the Meryl Streep scene in Mary Poppins Returns. I fast forward through that one too.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It does nothing for the movie.
Turning
It's just
turtle.
yeah, it's like
But
they
yeah,
had her
no,
in
I
there
agree.
to have Mary Poppins or
Right.
Meryl Streep.
To have Meryl Streep,
It's
right.
like this is even worse because I get that they wanted it in there because it's in the Broadway version, but like
Mhm.
there's some things I feel like need to be
Right.
cut out in a film adaptation, and this that could have been cut completely. I just found it to be.
Mhm.
I don't think the number was very good. I don't think that something about that scene just rubbed me the wrong way. Everything else about
Mhm.
the film is great. Don't get me wrong. Like for the most part, and the lottery ticket thing that you were bringing up, I thought that was a really cool twist. It got me. Like that got me. Like it made me want to cry when Anthony Ramos is holding the ticket and just sitting there going, yelling. I just like I loved it for a performance purpose for him, and I just thought it created like really great drama there in the moment. The other thing
that's right, yeah.
And then obviously
I forgot about that because I said earlier that we don't find out who wins the lottery ticket, but that's right. You're right, we do, because she writes the thing like for Usnavi. Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing that sorry, what was the real quick? I wanted to throw this out there too. The actual scene during the blackout where they have that one big number. It's amazing. That was really great. When they're like in the alleyway and they're all dancing and stuff. That was fantastic.
Oh, the Carnival de Barrio.
Carnival, yeah. Thank you. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that number. I
too.
love that song. That was a fantastic way to kind of start. That was like the climax almost of the movie, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then when
did you know they filmed that in one day? That entire
I believe
song,
it because it looks like it was just like
it looks like it though, right? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it almost
you're like makes sense.
You feel the energy of them partying in the alley almost the whole time. You know, it's just really is that good, and it feels like authentic to what was happening there in the moment. So I believe you when you say that. Yes, and you know the other thing that I wanted to point out here too was, I mean, you know, obviously like I got emotional about the Benny thing at the end when he used the lottery ticket to help Benny, and then the thing that really brought a tear to my eye was obviously the twist of he was never on the beach,
right?
You know? I thought that was really awesome, and that's
not in the musical, by the way. That was added for the movie. That threw a lot of musical fans off because everyone was like, Usnavi doesn't go back to the Dominican Republic at the end of the musical. What is he doing on this? Very good. All of us musical fans were like, I saw the musical. He stays in Washington Heights. What's going on? But I agree, for that twist was really good, and I really liked how it was, you know, he's looking out and everybody's standing on the island, but it's everybody from Washington Heights. And because again, why that was concerning for a lot of musical fans and why it kind of bothered us is because the entire point of In the Heights is that if I were to sum it up in one sentence, it's that like home is where you find it. Home is where you make your home. That's where your home is.
Right.
And so for the fact of like, for us, even for a moment to be like, by Usnavi going back to the Dominican Republic, that's him blatantly being like, no, home is where my family was born. That's where my home is. And I'm like, that's not what this is. That's not what this is about. But I agree. That was a great twist, even because again, even for us musical fans, we were all kind of surprised by that. At least for me, I was a bit surprised.
Yeah.
I also thought, I was like, all right, somehow they're going to change the ending where he goes back to DR, but nope. Still had that classic ending while being able to throw us off.
Yeah, and that thing, you know, that he says to his daughter, that was very heartfelt.
That's also not in the musical. The musical ends just Usnavi decides to stay, and I believe the last line is something like, "I'm going out. I'm going to talk to Vanessa again, a second date." It's something like that, and so that's where it ends. So I mean, that was also cool that they decided to show. You know, they got married, they had a kid.
Yeah, and I think it's cool too because I mean, Lin-Manuel obviously he had a lot of creative input on this as well as to what went into the movie and version of it. So I thought it was cool that he approved of all this. And you know, the other thing that I want to throw out there too is I think it's like maybe the best number in the whole movie possibly is 96,000 is incredible.
100%.
It's incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
I will fight anyone who says that is the best. That was one of the best filmed musical theater sequences ever.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Great.
On film, on screen, ever.
Yeah.
That was one of the best sequence song performances
It was
ever.
Great. It was great.
It was incredible. Are you kidding me? The water, how they work with the pool, the way like once they build to the like the multiple harmonies and all of that, it's like different sections of the pool, but it
was cool.
Chef's kiss all around, John M. Chu. Can't wait for Wicked. Please cast an unknown as Alphabet. That's all I have to say.
I mean,
everything else, I know you'll do great.
Other than that, I mean, the last thing I'll say on the spoiler side of things is Pierre Aqua guy is the shiznit. I mean, that was pretty great. Lin-Manuel did incredible stuff, and the post-credit scene was fucking great and
which
hilarious.
He sang people all the time, which I don't fight back on this argument because sometimes it is true. Where a lot of people are like, but can Lin sing? Is Lin actually a good singer though? And it's like, it's a topic, and I'm like, okay, but he showed up at the end credit sequence. He was like, he killed it. Everyone is like, he's like belting these high notes like it's nothing, like beautifully. It was like, okay, Lin-Manuel, hearing your criticism and showing us that you can actually sing, because I do know that he can actually sing, but it's sometimes compared to Leslie Odom Jr. and Christopher Jackson, it's like comparatively there's a difference.
I've said that, and then maybe we can start to segue into Luca here a little bit, but I said I always say this about Lin-Manuel is that his voice is so unique. You could recognize, you could pick him out of a crowd. That's what he has that a lot of people don't have. It's not about necessarily the fact that, for me anyway, that about the notes that he can hit. What always appealed to me about him is the fact that if you showed me 1,000 male voices, I would pick out Lin-Manuel.
I would know it's Lin.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would know Lin-Manuel if he was in that crowd. And it's just like, you could pick that out, and not everybody has that. And, so long as he sings mostly on pitch and everything, I'm never going to really gripe about it.
And he does. He always does.
He always,
because that's the thing. I've heard in my time, just being a musical theater person, like since I was like in the 6th grade, that like there are a lot of people who like are really good at singing and like are composers or they play the piano or they're musicians or something, and they'll hit the notes perfectly every single time, but their like tone quality isn't as great as like, I don't know, like if Beyonce, like they could hit the same notes as Beyonce, but they don't sound as good as Beyonce when they hit them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that is a big thing, and that's especially with like musicians and composers and all of that sometimes tends to be a thing. Like you hit the note, you're singing it absolutely correctly, your placement is perfect, your tone quality is just not as good, but like, oh my god, in Piagua end credit scene, both were perfect, like tone and musicality.
I've had a couple people tell me, Samee, not to go see Hamilton with Lin-Manuel in it, like live. Do not watch it that way. And I'm like, forget that. I mean, I think that he is the best Hamilton. Like, I don't care. Like, anybody else's like tone of voice on that is not going to appeal to me much. No offense to the people out there trying to recreate it or play the role. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if I see it live, it's not going to feel pure to me unless Lin-Manuel's doing it, because he has a unique voice. I think that the guy is just absolutely incredible, and you're right. In this, he was extra impressive. But it's not that I never knew that he didn't have that in him. I guess it's just like, I don't know. Like, I guess I always assume that he can do that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Why, but like in my mind, it was always kind of like set. But even when I heard it, I was like, whoa, he's got some pipes. Even though I knew in my mind, it's like, I know he's capable of it. It's just like, you're not used to it. But yeah. And then the Chris Jackson, the Mr. Softy was great. That was funny.
That was pretty great. Although he doesn't.
By the way,
have you? Oh my god, the Hamilton reference
was hilarious.
I love that.
With Jimmy Smits on the phone.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was
pretty great. I did.
I was
really
waiting
like that.
for Jonathan Groff to show up somewhere in here.
Oh, that would have been great. That would have been a good cameo. Also, oh my god, speaking of cameos, Patrick Page randomly just showed up. Who do you know? Patrick Page?
No.
He's the like lawyer guy who Nina's dad sells the cab company to. That guy, do you know what I'm talking about in the movie? He's like an older white man. But the actor's name is Patrick Page, and he's like a Broadway icon.
Okay, I think so.
Like all the theater kids on TikTok were like,
okay,
Patrick Page randomly showed up.
I think I saw him, and I was like, I think I've seen him elsewhere. Yeah, you know what I mean.
He was Hades in Hades Town, which was a big one. He played Frollo in Hunchback of Notre Dame. That was another big one. He's been in a bunch of others. Those are the two that I know him really from. So, but yeah,
I got you.
He's great.
Okay,
but yeah, that was cool too. I know, that was great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Any last thoughts? Just, I mean, I do feel like, again, go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, it's just a quick thing. I was just going to say about, how John M. Chu made the decision to mix the songs or have the songs mixed just ever so slightly different for the film. I thought that was cool too. I mean, obviously you can hear subtle differences in the heights, I mean, outside of, obviously it's different people singing it. Like if you listen to soundtrack versions
there's
of these,
lyric changes and
well, yeah, slight lyric changes and like the music that's like, there's more instruments going on in it, and it sounds really it sounds more polished, you know what I mean, than if you were just listening to the Broadway soundtrack. I just thought it was a good choice to do that, so I was happy about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And yeah, I mean, again, my only real gripes is I do think also Nina fell a little by the wayside in just the transfer from stage to screen.
I really like her.
What do you think about Nina?
I like her. I like the actress. I can't remember her name. I thought she was good.
She was good though. I wish she could have belched. She had a great voice. I loved when she did the in Benny's Dispatch when she does hello and she belts that beautiful hello. I was like, so like a girl, I know you can sing. So why aren't you hitting this final note?
Again, I don't have the same attachment to all the songs, so it didn't bother me. But I thought she was I think she's a really good actress. I hope she shows up in more stuff. And I've never seen her in anything before, I don't think. And
no, me neither.
I thought she was really good, and her storyline was one of my favorites in the whole thing. So
nice.
Yeah,
I do just think so also I mentioned before in like a stereo or something, I want to say, or maybe we were just talking about it. But so her song Breathe, that is like the third song in the movie. That's her big like I Want song. That is one of the most popular musical theater songs for female soloists to perform. So like again, this is like a very theater kid problem, but like if you're a theater kid, you've heard hundreds of teenage girls sing that song, good and bad. You've heard it all. So for the movie, all of us who have seen that performance so many times was like, at least for me, speaking for myself, I was like, I want this to be the definitive version. I want every girl to try to mimic what she is doing in the movie. I want this to be the perfect version of it. And I just don't think it was. Like, I've seen it done better by like 17-year-olds in Denver, Colorado. So I think that's also a part of it. So I didn't really latch on to her as tightly, I guess, because of that.
I just like the relationship between her and Jimmy Smits. That was my favorite part about that.
That was great. I love that as well.
Yeah. I didn't really care about her love life or anything. I just liked her and Jimmy Smits together. And I thought
they cut a good amount of Benny and Vanessa's relationship in the movie. In the musical, they have a lot more.
Maybe like, they cut a big song. I don't know, because that's the stuff with Nina that didn't work as well for me, was the relationship part. But when it came to her and her dad, that was strong. And then like,
and that's where they focused it.
It was good stuff. And again, like, I was blown away by Jimmy Smits. I've always liked the guy, and I was excited to see him in this movie when
they cut his song though. He has a song in the Broadway musical. He does.
They better
it's
be
called
on the
Useless.
Blu-ray.
I know.
Better be on the Blu-ray. Yeah.
Oh my god, I don't know. Again, like, why'd they cut that? It would have been great. He was killing it.
I want the Blu-ray with that scene on it.
The extended version. No, me
That's
too.
That's the only
honestly.
one they add.
Same. There's also a song called "Everything I Know" from the musical. That's a huge fan. That was probably the number one most upset song to be cut by the fan base.
Yeah, you should have.
Because it's Nina. I would have, you know what? I would have been fine for them cutting No Me Diga, making it just like a quick scene, because like the thing about that scene is it does have information that we need to get across.
Which information?
But I would rather be that, like, Nina's dropped out, and the whole thing of Vanessa.
We found that out anyway.
They know Vanessa likes Usnavi, and
we found.
But
that
not in the musical. I'll say not in the musical though. In the musical, all of that information
in the movie
is revealed in No Me Diga.
She kind of goes over it. After Breathe, I think, before No Me Diga, she goes over
right, because they go to lunch, right?
Yeah.
That's not in the musical either.
Right, so if you kept
she
that
doesn't
scene,
tell them
until
way later. Yeah,
we would have been fine. But
Would have been fine.
Yeah.
But a song called Everything I Know, and Nina sings it about Abuela Claudia. And again, it gives so much more emphasis to her death, because you have Nina singing about how much Abuela Claudia impacted her immediately after. That's just cut now from the movie.
May I say this too? Just somebody
Mm-hmm.
who hasn't seen the musical before, the Vanessa story actually surprised me. I thought her character was going to be somebody who was just kind of shitty and like dumped Usnavi.
Oh, right.
And so
she's more expanded in the movie. The musical is just they kind of touch on a lot of stuff, but that whole thing with her wanting to be a fashion designer, all of that's just for the movie that was added.
Yeah, then you find out that there were so many more layers to her toward the end, and it's like, oh wow, I really like her. You know, she was a really good character. And then
we love Vanessa.
Yeah, she was really good. And then the other thing I love this. I'm sure this was in the musical as well, but I love this plot point of how Usnavi got his name. I never knew that until this movie.
It's even better in the musical. I swear to you, it's even better in the musical. It's like this. Do you want me to tell you how it happens? Because it's funny.
Yeah, real quick, so we can get to Luca.
So yes, and then we'll get to Luca after this. So it's in a song where, in the song right after, Abuela tells Usnavi that she won the lottery, and like we're gonna use it to go back to the Dominican Republic, and we're gonna help Sunny and all of that. And she's like, Usnavi, don't you remember when your parents came to America and they looked on the horizon and they named you after that beautiful ship, and it said Usnavi.
Oh, okay.
And then he just goes, it actually said U.S. Navy. And that's the joke. It's really good, I swear to you. It's better I can see that in the musical.
Like an audience laughing moment.
Because that was another thing. Because a lot of people saw that they had cut that song from like the track list. People were like, so are we going to lose the U.S. Navy Usnavi joke? But, you know, they couldn't cut that.
Let's be real.
I was like,
2 hours and 22 minutes is already pushing it for the length of this movie. I mean, like for a movie version of this, it's pushing it. I mean, I don't know though, because to me, Hamilton flew by. I know it's like a pro shot, but it flew
like
by.
3 hours or something.
It flew to me. Like I don't feel like it's 3 hours when I watch Hamilton. So
Hamilton is also sung through completely. You know,
that's what I mean. And then like I wonder how this would have been, you know, like a 3 hour version, but maybe we'll get it. Like maybe there is a 3 hour cut and we'll get it. And
the chew cut.
Yeah, maybe it'll be on the Blu-ray. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe there's a lot more.
Yeah, we will see. But yeah, that's our thoughts on In the Heights. We both really liked it. It was great. And now we are moving on to the latest film from Disney and Pixar. It's directed by Enrico Casarosa. And it is, yes, I had to look it up. I memorized it. Yeah, Enrico Casarosa. Casarosa.
Okay.
And it is Luca. And oh my God, did I love this movie. I'm kind of obsessed with this movie. I've only seen it the one time. And I'm kind of afraid to watch it again because I know it's just going to, like, if I watch it a second time, it's going to become my entire personality. Like, it's going to become Luca Summer real quick. I loved this movie. I have very little gripes and criticisms about it. But I will just start off by saying this is a gay movie. This is a gay movie about two gay boys learning how to accept themselves, each other, and how their society deals with them. Like, and I watched this immediately after watching Raya and the Last Dragon, which was also like, it had so many like of these like homosexual hints and tones of all of these things that I'm like, it's staring me right in the face, and the movie just refuses to call it what it is, but it does everything except say, these are two gay people in love with each other. It does everything except that, I think. But I love this movie.
Cool.
Dom, what are your thoughts?
All right, so I mean, the first thing, I mean, you're talking about like the messages and themes behind the movie. I think that's phenomenal for kids, and you know, the other great thing about this is like the kids are going to like suck that up really well, because I think kids are going to have a blast with this film. I really do. I think that it's just, I mean, in classic Pixar fashion, I mean, it's such a great looking movie too. I love looking at it visually, stunning throughout. And I mean, I really really the score was such a highlight in this movie. But that score
It
was
was great.
brilliant.
Yeah, who did it? Was
I
it?
don't know, but it was brilliant.
Oh man, yeah,
Great freaking
it was
score.
good.
That
Mhm.
said, I did not like this movie. This is probably like one of the first Pixar movies that I actually have not enjoyed thoroughly. I
All
know,
right.
and I'm telling you honestly, like I know kids are gonna love this, so like take what I say with a grain of salt, because if you have
Uh-huh.
anybody between the ages of 5 to 10 are probably gonna have a blast with this movie, and Samee.
Yes.
But you know, I think that for myself, I have so many gripes with this movie overall. It's to me, it fell short in so many ways, and you know, one of those ways being just the plot in general, like the fact that
Interesting.
I you know, it's a fish out of water story, haha. But you know, I get that, and that's cool. My problem is the fact that I don't care about Luca. Oh, that one more positive too here.
Mhm.
Jacob Tremblay was killer in that. He
Oh my
voiced him right.
God, the
He
voice
was great.
actors
He was
of this
great.
movie
Great. Great stuff.
killed
I have
it.
no
Oh
problems
my
with Jacob
God.
Tremblay here, so
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. Everything that I
Jack
have
Dylan Grazer. Oh my God, they killed it.
Everything I have
Yeah.
wrong with the movie is mostly story based. I have a couple little technical. There was a couple spots, for the most part, it looked good visually and everything, but there was a couple spots where it looked a little choppy and messy. But that aside, the story is where it felt so hollow to me, because I think that the
Interesting.
problem
Okay.
here is that Luca is. You don't know what he does under the sea. They never explain that to you at one point in the movie. Like,
What do you mean?
okay, so you
He's a
meet him.
child. He's just like he's a kid.
Okay, so you meet him, and he's under the sea.
Yes.
He's not
Yes.
just a kid, because he's doing stuff with the fish and everything.
Yeah, they're like herding sheep. It's like for me, I was like, yeah, they're like dumb. Like they're like sheep. They're herding
okay.
sheep. They're like on a farm.
Yes, but like my problem with the movie though is the fact that it's not so much even that. Like it's the fact that they did not develop him and his family like at all. So by the
Really?
time that he goes above the surface, you don't care that his family is like missing him or looking for him. You don't care. There's no reason. I mean, the heart of the story is him and
Alberto.
Thank you, Alberto.
Yeah.
Alfredo.
Yeah.
Alberto. I'm
Alfredo,
hungry.
you're close.
But yeah, him and Alberto are like the heart of the story, and I was getting that.
Mhm.
I get that, but they had so many spots where it was just like these parents are looking for this kid, and they're like dunking people's heads underwater and shit.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're just gonna give away his position that he's a fish outside of the water. It's like, what are you doing?
Here's the
people?
thing though. Here's the thing though with that.
Public,
okay.
like in front of God and everybody, they're just dunking people's heads under the water.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't go up to the surface, and nobody ever tells the kid why. It's like it made no sense.
I have rebuttals for everything that you're saying.
That's fine. Go ahead. I'm glad you liked it. I really
Okay,
am.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing. I also have to say, so I like even before, like there's been a bunch of talk about it, and I've watched videos and stuff after it since, but even watching the movie, I was watching it under the full understanding that like this is a metaphor for what it's like to, I mean, for me specifically, I was like, this is a metaphor for what it's like to be a gay child in a straight family. That's what that was about for me. But even without that, like it's about what it's like to be different in a family of people that are seemingly not different or don't encourage you to do things that are outside of what your family or people like to do. So for me, it was like the fact that, you know, they don't want him to go out because it's like, no, if you go out there, then you're not going to want to stay here with us, and we want you here with us. You know what I mean? Don't go do that stuff. We want you here. And the whole thing of, I mean, yeah, like I'm thinking back to like to me, like I read the thing when his uncle comes, this like weird see-through uncle, which I love, by the way. Like that whole thing of like to get him to move far away somewhere so he just forgets about all of his dreams, like that reads conversion therapy to me. That reads like the things that, you know, straight parents do to their gay children to get them to pretend to pray the gay away and stuff. You know what I mean? To not accept who he is, because he wants, you know, for him, he wants to see what's on the surface and all of that. So that's his thing, you know, versus straight up being like, he's gay and we don't want him to meet another gay boy and have a crush on him. We don't want him to go to the surface. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. But the thing is, and I said that in the beginning, remember, the messages I think are strong, and I think they're going to be strong for kids, and I'm happy that they're in there. It's not that. It's like, I'm glad the messages and the metaphors are all present. Don't get me wrong. I want them to be. And they are. And that's awesome. And I think that, again, kids are really going to suck that up like a sponge, because I think they're going to have a blast with this movie. This movie, to me, though, when you think about Pixar films, first of all, this has no stakes whatsoever. It just doesn't. It's like, there's no stakes to the story other than his parents are looking for him, and that's like the whole movie. And it's like, what the hell? Like, it's supposed to be this, like, no, I don't want to say supposed to be. It was probably made how it was intended. I'm just saying that, like, for me, this movie's not for me. It's not. I'm just throwing it out there right now. It's not for me. This story and movie is not for me. Like, let me put it that way, just so I'm fair. You know what I mean? Because I get that who this is made for. It was not made for me, and that's just a fact. I mean, the thing is like, there's some spots too, by the way, like, it felt rushed, like, to me. That was another thing I didn't like.
Really?
I thot the pacing felt very rushed throughout it.
I liked the pacing. I thought it was all right.
I'm glad. I did not. And the other thing here is the problem. I have a hard time shitting on kids' movies, Samee. So hang on. Let me try to collect my thoughts, because, like, I'm trying not to be mean. I will say real quick then. I'm trying not to be mean. I really just did not like this movie, though. You know?
I will say, okay, so for me, I understand what you're saying, and I do think the issue is this might just not be for you.
It's not for me. I'm telling you right now, it wasn't made for me.
Because for me, this is a movie about kids being kids. That's what it was for me. Right. It was purely adolescence. That's why I think it's being described as this, I think, is the perfect summer movie, because it's not only in beautiful Italy where you can swim and be in the sun all day, but it's about that time of it's about the summer of your life. Like, literally the part of your timeline that is summer, that childhood beautifulness where everything is innocent. Your stakes are because when you're a kid, the stakes are you just want to be understood. You just want people to be like, I see you and I'm going to try to help you. That's the stakes of being a kid, you know what I mean? So for Luca, for that to be his stakes, for me, I read that as like, it's because it's a kids movie about kids being kids, you know what I mean? It's not trying to be like, they're kids but they're about to be adults soon, let's talk about it. I'm like, no, this is the fun time. This is the happy times for them.
And I guess the thing that I guess that's part of what I didn't like about it too. Like, while I said I'm happy that kids have this, but I think the thing that I didn't like about it too is the fact that it does just seem a little more aimed toward children, as opposed to most Pixar films are aimed toward adults too. Like, they're actual family films.
I see you, but I don't think that's a valid. Again, like, I see you. I see you, and that's fine. But the reason why I disagree is because it's so intelligently, I think, put together. You know what I mean? Like, for me, when I think of when people talk about that was like a dumb kids movie, it's more of like,
I don't mean it like that either.
For me, Luca is like, it's a child's.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sure, I mean, sure, I guess, sure. I mean, right, I guess it's right. It's hard because I saw all the things they were doing as really intelligent, actually, as themes and ideas and stuff, and things done in such a way that you can't quite understand when you are a kid, that you really need to kind of have retrospect, be able to understand it, to tell that story the way the story was told, versus like, I don't know, like Secret Life of Pets and stuff feels like a 12-year-old was the director. You know what I mean? This is like, no, an adult with retrospect was the director and put it together.
I get that.
It's just in context of that childhood.
And they always are, and they should never. And I meant this in the beginning wholeheartedly. Like, I think that, when I said this in the beginning of this review, I meant this wholeheartedly. I think that one of the things I appreciate about the film is it's not talking down to children. There are themes that are like in there, and I love that about it.
Right on their level.
And it does. Okay, so it's like, to me, it hits all the marks. This is gonna sound really pretentious, and I'm sorry, I don't mean it
Go
to,
for it.
but like this is, I just can't think of a better way to word it. But like it
I'm
it,
pretentious all the
it checks
time.
all the boxes
Hmm.
of a Pixar film without the epicness of a Pixar film. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? To me, that's where it was lacking. The stakes. It was a very low stakes film, and
Okay.
like it's like easy viewing. You know what I mean? It was like it felt just a little.
Sure.
While there are themes in there, and I agree with you again
Yeah.
that you can pick out and analyze and all that, and that's great, and I meant that
Hmm.
wholeheartedly. I like that, but when you're watching this kind of a movie where there's, in my opinion, a lot more room for a lot
Hmm.
more to happen, then that's where I feel like I got the bad deal on
Hmm.
it, because I feel like this was, when I was watching this, honestly, Sammy, I felt like this was put on Disney Plus for a reason, and it felt like a straight to
Oh,
Disney Plus
yeah.
Pixar film, and
I'm gonna
that
interrupt you
kind of
real. I'm
irritated
gonna
me. But yeah, go
interrupt you
ahead.
for a real quick important part moment because I'm angry about this. So this movie on Disney Plus was put out as a Disney Plus original movie.
Right.
That made me want to vomit. I was so angry. I was like, so they just made this movie for the last 4 years at Pixar Animation Studios,
Right.
Emeryville,
Well,
California, for you to label it as a Disney Plus original, like it's the Mandalorian or Loki. I'm like, come on. You
well,
want to put like new Pixar movie over Loki because it's not. Why did you do that?
right.
I
Well,
couldn't believe they did that. I was like,
yeah, and it irritates me
can't believe you
too,
did that.
even as somebody who doesn't like the movie, because me watching it and not liking it, and knowing a lot of other people really don't like this movie,
Yeah.
it makes me feel like Disney really just didn't have faith in it. So it's like, okay, the
It
stuff that we don't think is going to be good,
yeah.
we're going to throw on Disney Plus, and I don't want that,
It
because
really
I want
yeah.
to watch the Disney Plus originals, hoping for greatness, and a lot of them have been great. I'm not trying to say that they're not. I'm just saying that
Right.
in the case of their movies, they've been a little bit weak when it comes to the original movie side.
Oh, for
You know what I
movies for
mean?
sure. Like
Yeah,
Lady and the Tramp,
yeah.
Godmother, didn't care for any of
And it
those.
just feels like they're
Yeah.
dumping their shit onto Disney Plus right now, and I don't like that. This
Yeah.
movie's not shit, by the way. Like, I want to point that out. This isn't shit. It's just, it
But
seems
it
like,
feels like they included it in the
to
shit. Like
me,
when they were putting them
right,
together, they were
exactly.
like, "Oh yeah, and Luca."
But a lot of people don't like it. You know what I mean? It's been received pretty bit poorly compared to other
Right.
Pixar films. It's one of the lesser
Which
ones in terms of the
yeah.
reception of it. And so to
Hmm.
me, yeah, it just feels like they think that the things that people aren't going to enjoy, they're just going to toss on Disney
Yeah.
Plus, and that irritates me, because I want to watch things on Disney Plus that I don't want to sit there and be like, I'm neglecting everything they're putting out, because the one day something
Hmm.
will come around that's good, and I'm not going to watch it because it's like a cried wolf situation where they keep doing it to us over and over and over again. Eventually, we're just not going to want to do it. And it's like, oh, but the good stuff on Disney Plus, you got to pay $30 for. It's like, come on.
Which honestly, I'm
I'm a
like, okay,
subscriber.
like if y'all are up there being like Cruella is worth $30 and Luca is worth nothing, is worth our scum Disney Plus original movie. Like who do I have to talk to? Is it Chapek? Is that who I have to
Yeah.
talk to? Because I'm angry. that makes me angry to be like, no, Cruella is $30 and worth your time and money, but Luca's like a dumb kids
Yeah,
movie. Who gives a shit?
as a matter of fact,
Excuse
Sammy,
me?
as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
Sammy, I hate to pile on to the guy, but I hear it is a Chapek decision to do premiere
I
access.
knew
So
it.
listen, I just think
It felt like Chapek. It
yeah.
felt like a Chapek move.
Listen, again, this movie's not for me. It wasn't made for me, and I'm okay with that. I'm willing to sit here and say that and accept that, and that's fine. I think kids are going to like this movie. I wanted to make sure I started that way, so like
Yes.
if like a parent was watching or something like that, yeah, put it on for your child. They're gonna love it, and I think it's good for them to watch. For me,
Yeah.
I just did not enjoy this movie. I think that Pixar films have thrown out a little bit of something for everybody, and for me, like, there was nothing in here that was for me. There was no new information that I could learn from. There was no message that I felt like I needed to be reminded of personally either. That's the thing. It's like these are like the messages in there are morals that like I already keep. My favorite movies are the ones that hit me are typically like with like profound dramatic moments and messages are the ones that are like that, like we as humans really, or I really need to be reminded of that as a human being. You know what I mean? And that like hit me hard because things like that. But this,
I mean, I am gonna end the year of our Lord 2021. I do think think some people need to be reminded that
Great. I'm just
people
not
are
one of
who
them.
they are, and don't judge them for it. You know what I mean?
Oh, great.
I know you for you,
Again,
but
that's
like
why I'm
on the
trying to say,
grand scale of the world, I
this
do think that
film
is
wasn't
the
for me.
themes are
Again,
powerful.
I
You know,
I liked the heart of Luca and not Alfredo, goddamn Alberto.
Alberto.
I like that
Yes.
heart, and I like that. I thought that was really a little bit more profound and touching when, you know, they had to separate at the end, and then that score came, and I was like, that
How
was a
did you
nice moment.
feel? Oh my God! By the way,
Nice
how did
moment.
you feel at that moment when I was like shook. This was the first moment I cried. I got a little emotional. I cried twice during this movie. Once at this moment, and then once at the very end at the train whole sequence when Alberto's like, "Go,
Yeah.
Luca, go!" I fucking ruined me. But the first
Yeah.
time
That one I
when
understand. Yeah.
yeah, that was a lot. But when like Luca when Alberto like exposes himself as a sea monster, and then Lucas is like, sea monster. And Alberto's face of just like pure like shock and disappointment. And then Luca just like covers his mouth. Like he also can't believe that he just did that to his best friend.
Yeah,
Like
that was one of those
I
moments where I
love
was
that.
like, honestly, that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, maybe this movie will turn around, and then I just felt like it was doing this. It was repetitive the whole time of the same thing, and that was another thing about the movie. It just something about it felt extremely repetitive to me, like the whole like. It didn't feel like we were breaking new ground or going anywhere new, and you know, I get what they were trying to do with the Vespa. Like, that's fine if they wanted to use that as like symbolism. I get that. It's just like, why a Vespa?
Well, I think you're right. Well, I think of first
know.
a Vespa because it's Italy, but also Vespa because it's also I think it's also the fact of I think it's also really important, again, with my understanding of the movie, that it's important that they want one Vespa. They don't want a Vespa for each of them. They want one Vespa for the both of them, so one of them could ride on the back.
Okay.
Very important. Also, but it's also like they just want to go as far as possible. You know what I mean? Like there aren't many cars in that area of Italy, but there are Vespas and there are scooters. So it's what's the way to get us out of here as quickly and furthest away as possible. Yeah. It probably would be a Vespa.
I guess, but it's just, I don't know. It was just, I mean, it's just, that's fine. That's dandy. It was not for me. I'm sorry. Like,
and here's the thing. So I've been thinking this whole time. So I think what the thing is that I got, for whatever reason, I still find pretty much all facets of childhood and like I guess like that summer part of your life to still be incredibly fascinating and moving, and I find it still to be epic and warlike, because I'm like, I remember what it was like to be, I mean, what is Luca, like 12? Like I remember what it was like to be 12. Your world is so much smaller than it is when you're an adult. Like it's the small world of a 12-year-old. And so what are the concerns of a 12-year-old? It's like finding friends, being accepted, just trying to find good things and good people that make you feel good and like a good person as well. And so for me, that's what this whole movie was about. And since I find that so beautiful and so like important for people to remember, because again, like I think critically a lot about Disney. And again, like the reason why I think I love it so much is I think back to like the reason why Walt Disney built Disneyland was so parents and adults could have a place to hang out together. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's that, but it's in that it's like the parents have a respect for the imagination of a child. And in that the children then, you know, have respect for the parents being interactive with that. If any of that makes sense? It does. And I just find all of that very beautiful and moving. Yeah. So, you know, I definitely see how like such a basic plot line and story and characters can be like a kid's thing and whatever, but I just find that to be so endearing, and I find it to be epic. I find childhood to be very epic. I do.
That's awesome, and I love that you loved it. I really do, because I wanted to, and I this is the first time
that you didn't.
I think this is the first time I watched a Pixar movie and just thoroughly found myself not enjoying it for the most part. It was a really odd feeling.
Wow,
it was a really odd feeling. You know?
See Cars 2? You seen Cars 2?
Cars 2 is not great.
That was the only Pixar movie that I was genuinely like.
Cars 2 and Good Dinosaur are like somewhere in the middle.
See, even Good Dinosaur, I was like, I watching Good Dinosaur for a sec. The first time I watched it, I was like, it's not that bad. It was like fine. I guess I kind of felt the way that you feel about Luca, where I was like, it was kind of basic, but whatever. And the second time I watched it, I didn't quite care for it. So I mean, I'll give you that one.
Like even good, but those two, like even no, they're not my favorites, but like at least there was like fun to be had with them. In this movie, I don't really feel like for myself there was a lot of fun to be had. I just kind of felt empty the whole time. And,
that hurts. I'm not taking it personally, but like I just found so much joy in this movie.
I know. It just
I had the biggest, like my cheeks hurt. Good. My cheeks were hurting by the end of the movie. Good. It's like, I'm like, what do you mean?
I don't know what to say. I just felt empty the whole time. Yeah. It didn't connect with me, and it didn't bring me back to my childhood or whatever it did for you. It just, for me, it didn't do any of that, unfortunately. There's a lot of things that do. This wasn't it, but, you know, the one thing I would say here is I think that the movie definitely still screams good intentions. I mean, it has good intentions, and I don't want to, like, shit on it because I know it has good intentions. I know the intentions were just and right, and I love that about it. I just don't like the movie. Like I don't know what to say other than that. Yeah. I don't think this is a good movie. I think that there's a lot more to like the other.
I do think though it is sorry. I mean, again, this is to just validate my enjoyment of it, but I do think it is valid to say that like it just means something that like you didn't like it, plus it wasn't made for you. It was kind of made for me and I loved it.
That's
like
great.
that is interesting.
I love that. I hope you watch it 10 more times or so. I mean, really, I think that even
it's interesting that like if for the target audience to like it before it to only really hit that target audience, like that's just an interesting, I think, factor.
And that's great. I think that's what a movie maker should do is just make the movie he wants to make, and you know, hopefully it connects with the people that it'll find its audience, and I think it will. It's just this movie has not been received all that well, and again, I think that a lot of that is because it's like the characters just weren't as rich as most Pixar characters, in my opinion, and you know, I think that the whole thing just felt so hollow. I don't know how to explain it, and I think a lot of it was the stakes. I think that that's what it comes down to, is the stakes, and it was missing that expansiveness and epicness that Pixar films typically have. There were a couple of other gripes that I had too, and I mean, this isn't like a big deal, but like I just felt like there were parts of the beginning that were definitely derivative of Finding Nemo. It's a small nitpick.
In my notes, also of The Little Mermaid too. In my notes, I wrote, cool, so it's a Little Mermaid with a 12-year-old boy. That was one of my first notes that I took, so I totally agree. Same with Finding Nemo as well.
I don't think we need another underwater story from Pixar, but that's all right. You know,
I like the twist though. It's with the whole, it's the Italy of it all too, man. I mean, I know you've never been out of the country, right? But because I have been to Italy. No. I have been to like small towns in Italy.
I would love to go to Italy one day. Yeah.
Oh my! This movie literally like transfers. I might also be a part of it because this movie literally transfers you right back there, like down to like how the shade works, down to like the cobblestone streets and the curvatures of it. Like it's like me. I've been to Italy twice, and I felt nostalgic. Like I can't even imagine what it's like for Enrico Casarosa or someone who grew up there to watch that in Pixar version and feel so nostalgic about that.
Okay, fine, I'll give you this. I mean, as an Italian, it was great to be back home, but I don't know, it didn't work for me. Like honestly, I liked Italy better and Call Me by Your Name, and I didn't like that movie either. So
interesting.
I don't know.
They're pretty. You know what? Honestly, they're kind of similar. I was like, how would I compare the Italy imagery and Call Me by Your Name?
Funny enough, this is a better movie than Call Me by Your Name, if you ask me. Neither were for me.
I do. I think Luca's a better movie than Call Me by Your Name.
Neither were made for me, but I mean, true. Really, honestly,
I really loved both, and I think Luca is better as well. So,
well, before we get canceled talking about Call Me by Your Name, I wanted to just say that, you know, again, let me make sure I'm clear. I don't think this is a piece of shit movie. I don't think it's like I don't even necessarily think it's a bad movie. I'm just telling you I didn't enjoy it.
It was just not for you. I know what you mean by that. I've seen so many movies that I'm like, it just wasn't for me.
I hope kids watch it. I hope they love it. I really do. This was just one that I wanted to connect to so badly, because I love Jacob Tremblay. I do. I think he is a world-class actor. I think he's gonna have a real future ahead of him. But he's already big. But you know, he's gonna get so much bigger. And I love watching him get work. And I was like, oh, they're putting him in a Pixar film. That's gonna be awesome. And unfortunately, it wasn't. By the way, when I saw this trailer, I was high on this trailer. I was like, this movie is gonna be great. Like, it's gonna be awesome. And it's like, oh man. So there's always a bummer for me when I don't connect with something that I thought I was going to. And I wanted, believe me guys, more than anything, I wanted to like this movie. It's just
So here's the thing. So I really think that this movie is about, and I guess I'll say for, like, it is for and about children, but because it is just completely unadulterated, like, innocent, wholesome, adolescent fun. And the questions and themes that are asked are those that are important to a 12-year-old. And the thing is, like, some people might be like, well, that's not important to me. I'm a grown-ass person. The themes of a 12-year-old aren't important to me. But if you're like me and you see the, well,
I'm not saying it wasn't important to me. It's important to me that kids know this stuff.
But you as a grown-ass person is like, I don't.
No, you know. I just say it didn't connect with me on that level. I want them to know this stuff. They're going to be taking care of us. So I mean,
exactly, But you know what I mean. That I just still find so much charm and integrity, and you know, validness, and I have so much respect for childhoodness. I guess, like, I have a great respect for children, I guess, is the thing, and all of their problems and all of their nuances, because the children are way more complex than any adult thinks they are. I know I will die on that hill. And so for me, that's what this whole movie was about. So I mean, if you are kind of, I guess, have that more kid at heart, lightheartedness, don't need every movie to make you cry and have an existential crisis, or if you are a child, this, I think you're gonna love it genuinely. Like, this is a great family movie, a great summer movie. I think it's great. But I do get what you mean, and I do think you are correct that if you need more of that kind of depth, and you need more kind of, not existentialism, but you want more to be more emotionally affected by your Pixar movies, then maybe just skip this one. You know, because I'd rather you just not watch it than like complain on the internet about how Pixar is losing its touch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna.
I know.
That guy.
Yeah.
Trust me. I love Pixar. I'm a huge Pixar fan. I would never do that. Just everybody has a bad day at the office. Listen. I mean, the one thing that I would say, just to wrap up here, because we are pretty pressed for time, is that oh man, I just lost the thought. Oh gosh, that was important to say.
My final thought was going to be Silencio Bruno. Bruno is that voice in your head that's telling you don't like this movie. It's blocking the adult. Your Bruno is an adult. You need a Silencio Bruno. So you have to do. That was my big takeaway. I will be using that for the rest of my life. Right. I love that metaphor. Right. And again, as someone that's like an anxious person, who's like, to have Pixar just kind of be like, turn that off, babe. Like, just turn it off. It's not important. Tell it to shut up. I love that. And, you know, again, I think it's definitely, you know, you gotta be into it.
Yeah.
If you only are really into, you know, kind of like your Ratatouille's, Wally's, Souls, Toy Story 3's, might not be up there. But again, like I said, like my favorite Pixar movie of all time is Monsters Inc. So like, I just want, you know, a great story to be told to me. Yeah. And that's what I got with Luca. So I loved it. Do you remember what you were gonna say?
Yes. The one other thing I want to add is this is disappointing to me, because it just, when we're talking about like the grand scale of like other Pixar movies, whether you liked it or not, you cannot deny that the scale of this one is a little bit, you know, dumbed
It's
down in
it's
comparison. Like, yeah. So
again, yeah,
what it made
because
me
again, it's from it's a for children by children, I think, kind of
right.
vibe.
And
It
like
is
I don't
smaller.
mind them
Yeah.
like making cheaper films. It's just the thing that it felt like to me that it was just like we just want to make a quick cheap thing for Disney Plus. That's kind of how it felt in a way.
Oh
Like
man,
while the
yeah.
filmmaker had good intentions behind it, it's like yeah, well we're just gonna put like the cheap Pixar movies on Disney Plus.
Oh,
It just
I
seems
hate
like
that
a
you
cop
felt
out to
that
me.
way. Oh
You know what I
man.
mean? And
And
that's
I
like
blame them. I partially blame
yeah.
them. They set themselves up that way. I was gonna say Disney Channel original movie, but
Yeah.
that's how this felt. It felt like you put a theatrical movie on Disney Channel and
Yeah.
called it a Disney Channel original movie.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful. I don't like that. This is a Pixar animated
I don't know.
animation studios film.
It seemed
And it should have a run in theaters. It's not showing in theaters
it
also. It's like
just
having limited run in some places,
it
which
just
also makes me
seemed,
angry.
dare I say, maybe affected by the pandemic. I felt the same way when I watched Conjuring 3, you know, like it just
I mean, maybe, but again, like Soul was made a lot during the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of Cruella was made during the
yeah, but a lot of
pandemic. I'm
that
sure a
was
lot of
post.
In the Heights was actually done. But I think
The
yeah,
Soul stuff
maybe.
was
The
post where
last
you're
year,
inside
right?
and in a controlled environment. I
The
feel like
full the full last year of production, the one Luca was done
yeah, this felt
during the
like that was
pandemic,
another
right?
gripe of mine is that this just felt like it needed more scenes too, which I feel like it was affected
Mm-hmm.
by the pandemic because they probably couldn't bring in the voice actors to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
like as opposed to like Soul was like all post production that had to be finished on it, you know. And that's the
Yeah.
other thing when you place this up against Soul and Onward last year, it's like there's no comparison in my opinion. Like Soul and Onward are also films with great messages for children, and I think both of them
Yeah.
blow this film out of the water. Like I really do. I thought they were both
I
incredible.
mean, again, I'm gonna have to disagree. I see what you mean, but I think the only thing is like, I don't know. I guess the difference is like, I guess again, for me, just because I do take like the struggles and hardships of being a kid so seriously that I'm like, so we're comparing like the struggles of a 12-year-old versus the struggles of, Joe Gardner, a man in his 30s or 40s, you know what I mean? Like it's just so different that I'm like, of course the struggles of Joe Gardner is going to make more adults feel more because he's an adult versus the effects of Luca because he's a child and his problems are that of a child. For me, I see the differences, but they equate to the same amount for me because I have respect for adults and children's problems. You know what I mean? So I put them very similarly. Soul's maybe slightly a bit better, but yeah,
really?
go ahead.
I was just no. The only what I was trying to say is I just felt like they were just far more grand. You know what I mean? In terms of like their expansion and scale and like the runtime. You know what
right,
have you?
Fair,
I mean, it just it's not so much that I don't care about children's problems. I do. I really do.
No, I know what you mean, but it's right. I think it's not so much that's like not caring. Sorry, but it's not so much like not caring about children's problems, but having
it appeals to myself, right?
Yes, seeing the problems of a child and being asked to empathize and relate to that in yourself is a bit more difficult when you are like a full adult versus to do that to another full adult. It's like, cool, so I'm doing that to myself. But with like a smaller child, it's asking you to kind of empathize with someone that's not exactly, that's a bit less exactly like you, if that makes sense.
I'd have to really think about it like with other Pixar movies, but I can tell you like for myself with Soul and Onward, like I think the thing that I enjoy about them most is that they feel like personal stories being told, and this doesn't feel like a personal story. Like don't get me wrong, like this might have been
I felt it,
written by like a homosexual man or something, like that's great.
I don't know if he is actually.
That's great if it was. I'm just saying I didn't feel that was another thing. I didn't feel like the personality on the film, you know what I mean? Like I think the other filmmakers like were really able, like with Soul and Onward, I think the biggest difference is like with Onward, for example, he really wrote that about for his father, you know what I mean? And I just felt like that personal connection, like I didn't feel something like that here necessarily, like if
do you know the backstory for it?
This one
That's so Yeah, so it was literally Enrico Cosarosa spent like all of his summers in Italy
Okay.
when he was a kid, and he
Okay.
met his best friend named Alberto when he was 11.
Hmm.
And
Oh
he
wow.
had like a really kind of rough home life. I don't know the exact things, but the way he talked about it, he was like it was, and he just had a completely different life than to what
Okay.
Enrico had. And yeah, and like he changed his whole life. And he says like he was like, I don't know if I would have been as, daring in my
Yeah.
professional career if I hadn't, had a friend like Alberto, challenging me to, and he was exactly like Alberto in the movie, like constantly challenging him to do new stuff, to silence Bruno, to do all that.
It,
So yeah, so it's in part based on
okay.
that lifelong, and they're still friends, so it's their
Yeah.
lifelong, it's their childhood in Italy together. A
And
little bit.
this was all he can come up with out of that whole thing? Because, I mean,
Shut up, my God.
I'm serious. Like, that makes me even more upset about it, because it's like, come on, you had this personal experience, you couldn't dump more into it. It's like, it just, that's irritating to me.
Okay,
but...
well, so here's the thing. Here's how I'm going to defend that. So the thing, okay, so Onward, right? And I know we're running out of time. This is a lot.
We really
so
need to wrap up.
I know. So okay, I'll try to speak fast.
As
so
your
Onward,
engineer
right?
today, I'm telling you,
this is important. I swear to
we're
God.
behind, but yeah.
I know. Onward, right?
Yeah.
So in real life, he loses his father. And I was at the D23, by the way, when Dan Scanlon came out and told this story when they announced that Onward was happening. So I remember this. That Dan Scanlon, so he lost his father when he was really young, never really got to meet him, and was therefore raised pretty much by his older brother.
Yes.
So when making a Pixar movie, you have to think like, okay, that's the true story, but how do we make it a Pixar movie? It's like, well, when he was a kid, the number one thing he always wanted, was to see his dad again, to have that one day with his dad. However, growing up, he learned that it wasn't his dad that he needed, because he already had his brother who was basically his dad. That's why he didn't feel as bad about it, because he had his brother. So that's what happens in the movie. You know what I mean? You know how that like transfers to it. So for this, it's Enrico Casarosa grows up feeling really awkward on the inside, not really feeling validated. And then he meets this like trailblazer of a friend that brings him out of his shell and is able to make him grow as a person and accept himself.
Right.
So then what does Luca do? He wants to do things and doesn't like the fact that he's a sea monster all the time. So he goes up to the human world and meets Alberto and experiences all of these new things again to get out of his shell, and eventually goes off to school at the end of the movie and has a great life where he's like comfortable, and at during the end credits he's like showing kids his scales and all of that, and he's totally comfortable in his body, just like Enrico Casarosa now is as an adult. You know what I mean? So I see what you mean, but I think Luca did the same thing.
Okay, I'm glad.
Just said.
I'm glad.
Sorry if I'm coming off like trying to fight you. I'm not trying to fight you.
No, I don't feel that.
I just have rebuttals for everything that you're saying.
No. I really don't feel like you're trying to fight me on this at all. Like I genuinely feel like you're passionate about the movie, and I'm happy that you are.
I'm like getting sweaty. I'm
happy that.
I'm like, I'm fine. But
we got the heat wave, but yeah, I mean, I feel like you're passionate about the film, and I'm happy that you are. I think that this movie screams good intentions, and that's really great. I did not connect with it. I think that there could have been more to it, and I just didn't connect with it. So that's where I'll end that.
Nice. And I'll say, that's just Bruno talking. You have to say, Silencio, Bruno, Silencio. That's all I got. We're going to end there. Don't have anything better. Thank you guys for joining us today on this episode of Movie Night, talking about In the Heights and the brilliant Luca. I don't care what anyone says. You guys can find us on Instagram and Twitter. We're at Anorax Official. We also have a merch shop. That is the link right up here, merch.streamelements.com/Anorax. And Dom, where can the people find you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, just thank you for being a fantastic host once again. You always
Thanks for being a great guest.
And you can find me on Twitter at Dom_Martino_ and on Instagram Dom_Martino_official. Really quick, did you see the monthly Mumble episode?
Oh, I started it. I didn't finish it.
At the end there, I couldn't do it because Adam was sitting right there. You'll see.
I didn't finish it.
I backed out. I was like, fuck it, they'll be in the description. But
Nice.
anyway, yeah, guys.
Solid.
Anyway, yeah, I'll give it back to Samee. This ain't my show. I gotta remember that.
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram at Samee Ramirez 14, and then I'm on Twitter and Stereo at Samee Ramirez. Check us out there.
Oh, Stereo, Don Martino. Sorry,
yeah, Stereo as well.
I forgot.
Right. Next week, I'm starting my Fast and Furious binge this week. I'm gonna watch as many as possible because next Monday, Fast 9. We're coming at you with Fast 9 review. I've never seen any Fast and Furious. I'm gonna watch as many as I can this week. And then we'll talk about the 9th one. It's gonna be wild. I'm kind of excited about it.
I'm ready for you to have this experience. I'm happy for you.
I'm really ready. You're literally, as you were sitting here talking about this, I was like, I can see myself already being like, guys, I get it. It's great. There's not for me. They're just not for me. I watched 5 in a row, not for me. But we will see. We'll find out.
If you don't like 5, I'm going to be very surprised if you don't like at least 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Fast
I think
5,
I'm gonna,
I think you'll
yeah.
like a lot.
That's kind of my limit. I'm like, if I get to 5 and I still want to kill myself, then I'm gonna stop.
You're probably
just skip to 9.
probably not going to enjoy the first one. You're probably skip.
It's gonna be a bit of a
I'm not
drag,
going to say this out loud. I'll tell you after the show how to do it. But
okay.
Cool. You're probably not going to like the first 4 too much, but 5 I think you're going to really enjoy. I'll put it that way. Okay. Yeah.
Oh man, so I'm like, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna give it until 5, but then 5 it's gonna kick off, and then it's gonna be a wild ride.
I mean,
but yeah,
don't skip any of them. Not at all.
Yeah, we're gonna try. Anyway. Oh, we're gonna see. I'm gonna watch as many as my brain will allow me to watch.
They're all great.
But yeah, that's been our episode of Movie Night.
It's like,
we might skip them. We'll see, honestly. But yeah, check us out next week for that. We will tell you how I liked all the Fast and Furious movies. Check us out. But all that being, have a great night. Thanks for joining us.
Good night, guys.